So our characters can move now, and we've created interactions for them. But there's really nothing that motivates the players to collect the correct items. Maybe the use of a score function today can help them and put them on the right path.
So finally, we need to set a condition of what happens if the player collides with either the virus or the sanitizer. Now, the reason why I set it up in this way is because I'm sure that you guys will be able to see the difference, the exact difference in what happens when the player collides with each of them, because supposedly they should behave in very different ways. So what we do here first is that we set up two if-then conditions, and then we put the get other equals sanitizer and get other equals virus in. So one of the first things that we do is that we're to set the player picture. Because if you remember, for the player, if we get the sanitizer, supposedly, we have to use the character good PNG. So let's take a preview of it. So what you have is a character looking happy because he has hand sanitizer. And he's also taking off his mask. Make sure you don't do that, even if you have hand sanitizer. And the next thing you're going to do is that you're just going to get the text. And you will have to set here, you will have to set, the character, so you have to set the picture. So character good.png. So that's my first part. And for the virus, it's not so good if we get it, right? So over here, I'm using the character bad PNG. So you have the characters that's saying, oh no, and you have to make sure that he wears his mask, right? So he says, oh no, and he's wearing his mask, so we're going to use this picture right here. So character here, if a player collides with the character of the virus, we use character bad.png. Now, next up, we need to figure out what to do with the score, because supposedly a score value should increase if we hit the sanitizer, but we haven't done anything to do with the score yet, right? So let's go all the way up over here next to the screen initialize, and let's initialize a variable. The variable is a computational coding concept that you can imagine works like a temporary storage. So think about the drawer in your room right now. You can use it to store books, you can replace it to store toys instead. You can just completely throw away this drawer if you don't need it, and you can also pull open the drawer to see what's inside of it. So this is like what a variable does. The variable helps you store information that you need. So over here, it's going to store our score. To begin with, we're going to initialize a global variable. So what this does is that we're essentially creating a variable, and we're telling it, hey, this variable is a number. That's why we place it as 0. Now in Screamer initialize, we set the variable to 0. So we set the global score over here, we set it to 0. And so math over here, we drag the equal, sorry, we drag the 0. And one final thing is that I need you to look at designer over here. So in the designer, what shows the score? It's actually this component here called the score count label. So actually, whenever we change a variable, it doesn't show on the screen right away. What we need to do is that we need to set a component to show this variable, which is why over here I'm going to set the score count label text to get the global score. So first of all, I set the global score, and then I get it using the score count text. So the score count text will show my score. Now let's look at the sanitizer. I need to set, when it hits the sanitizer, supposedly my score has to increase. So I have to set the global score to increase by how much? So normally every time I hit the sanitizer, my score increases by 1. We want to get the plus button here, and then we want to get the number 1. And what happens next? What do I add to? So if the score supposedly, if it was 1, then it would be 2 after I hit the sanitizer. If it was 2, it becomes 3. So it's adding upon itself. There's a term for this in coding, and it's called incrementing values. So we're kind of adding the score on top of itself. So how do we do this? We actually do this by getting the global score again. So whatever the score was before, we get it and we add it by 1 whenever the player collides with the sanitizer. This way we can get the score to continue to increase every time it hits the sanitizer. Now, remember, we just changed the score, so now we need to set the score count label text to show this change. So we set the score count label text to get global score again. And so this is the way how variables and incrementing values work. There's one more area here where we can use incrementing values, and that's actually where we hit the virus. But the score doesn't change here. No. What's different is that if you remember correctly, the virus gets bigger. So what we do here is that we have to set the virus height and width. So that we set the virus height. Originally, if you remember, it was 50 pixels. We're going to add it by 10 every time we hit the virus. Because supposedly, when we contract the virus, it's going to be more dangerous for us. So which means that the possibility of hitting the virus gets bigger. And so over here, I'm setting the virus height to the virus height originally. So we can get the virus height over here. And then we add 10. And then we can go to math and we add 10. Now similarly, we do the same with the width. So we can just duplicate it and we set the virus height and width. Then we set the virus height to width over here. So the height and width both change by 10 when we hit the virus. One last thing. First of all, when we set the screen when initialized, we don't want the virus to be at a very, very big size already. So what we do here is we have to go all the way up, and then we will have to set the virus height and width back to 50. So we set the virus height to 50 over here, and we can duplicate it to set the width. So this is how we use incrementing values to make animations as well as set the score for us. So over here, just align everything properly. There you go.